بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين سيدنا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. It's my pleasure to be among all of you tonight, and I'd like to thank Professor Hassan Khalid for his kind invitation and giving me this opportunity to address this important topic, especially for the academic staff on ethics in publication and artificial intelligence. Let me, before start, just a second, please. Okay, sorry. Let me, before start, just show you some of the slides which showed the consequences of misconduct in publications. So I'll start with this important slide on the Declaration of Helsinki, which was revised recently. If you go to the bottom section here, it showed that the scientific integrity, they have added this statement, scientific integrity is essential in the conduct of medical research involving human participants. Involved individuals, teams, and organizations must never engage in research misconduct. And here I'd like to stress on the role of organizations. Organizations has a role to monitor the researcher and in order to avoid any kind of misconduct in the publication. The other one, which is this one, in Nature, in 6th of November 2023, what they did publish, they said an unpublished analysis shared with Nature suggests that over the past 2 decades, more than 400,000 research articles have been published that show strong similarities or similarity index to known studies conducted by paper mills. There is a great, or something like major problem in the misconduct, Around 70,000 of these were published last year alone. Last year means year 2022. The analysis estimates that 1.5% to 2% of all scientific papers published in 2022 closely resemble paper mill work. Imagine 2% of all scientific paper in year 2022 has paper mill frame. And most of them, if you look to the right side here, most of them were in medicine and biology. It's in our practice. The other thing also, the Economist, Economist in this year, which is last year, February 22nd, look for the title. There is a worrying amount of fraud in medical research. And if you look to the left panel here, you will find that these are the kind of misconduct, and the consequences of it, mainly withdrawn of articles and so on. And on the bottom here, there is the by country, This is the scientific paper retracted in different countries. You see here, the China is on top of papers which were retracted and so on. Another thing in the Nature also published, 12th of December 2023. The title, more than 10,000 research papers were retracted in 2023. Imagine 10,000, which was considered as a new record by the Nature. Let me start the lecture then. I declare no conflict of interest. And these are the outlines of the lecture. First, I'll start with the predatory and the preprint and the definition of both. Second, I'll go for the chain of publication integrity, which we developed. Third, I'll go for the artificial intelligence and scientific writing and what are the ethical concerns. Let me start with the first part, which is predatory and preprint. What is the definition of predatory? Leading scholars and publishers from 10 countries have agreed a definition on predatory publishing that can protect scholarship. It took 12 hours of discussion, 18 questions, and 3 rounds to reach. This is the Delphi method. What was the definition came out of this group? The predatory journals and publishers are entities that prioritize self-interest at the expense of scholarship and are characterized by false or misleading information, deviation from best editorial and publication practices, a lack of transparency, and or the use of aggressive and indiscriminate solicitation practices. Again, these predatory publications, they focus sorry, okay. These predatory publications, they focus on their own interest at the expense of the scientific process. They don't respect the academic publishing standards, such as archiving articles, conveying misleading information in their journals or websites, using aggressive practices to invite researchers to publish, such as numerous emails. Myself and others, they used to come in the, in the morning and receive this email. When you open, or I open my email, I find a lot of these kind of emails. Take it with great caution. Dear Dr. Fulan, I hope this email finds you well. We are inviting you to submit your research or work. It can be full length or short length. Please note that waived publication charge. You see, they encourage you that you are going to be waived from any publication charges, which will be considered if the manuscript is submitted before, as you wrote here, said, of August. I think Professor Hassan and myself and others, they are, whenever they open our emails, we find a lot of these emails, invitations.
Yes.
Take it very, very careful. This, it will make you high, that you are the only one, they are considering you a pioneer in the field. And with these emails, you might feel that you're okay, this is a kind of respect. This is not a kind of respect. This kind of predatory invitations. So be very careful and better not to respond to them. In SGA, we have published a review article on predatory conferences. Not only they invite you to publish in their journals, but even to attend to their conferences, and they are going to waive you out of the conference fees, charges, and you might feel happy of doing that, but be very careful, because these predatory conferences in the biomedical streams is not going to add anything on your career. In the Committee of Publication Ethics, they have a list of predatory journals. You might ask me how I can recognize these predatory journals. It's online, just go for the Committee of Publication and Ethics and go for the predatory publishing. And this is on the right side here. These are the list of predatory journals, tons of journals. So be very careful before sending your article to any journal. Just go to the COP and check whether this is a predatory journal or not. Again, how to identify it? As I said, go to the COP, or you can go for the directory of open access journal, or go for the Think, or go for the predatory reports. There are a lot of, resources where you can identify whether the journal you are going to send your article to is predatory or not. This is a famous example of predatory publishing. This is Omics International. And this site has been banned from most of the universities all over the world. This is a very famous example of Omics. So whenever you receive any invitation from Omics, either for conferences or for publishing in the journals, please don't respond. Okay, so this is a decision tree, which can be used by authors to discriminate between open access journals suitable for your publications and predatory journals. This is a very important figure because, it shows you the following. First, ask yourself, is the scope of the journal narrow and focused? Means that are the editorial board members experts within the scope of this journal? If yes, go further. Are journals' title and geographical additives reflecting the journal scope and location? If yes, go further. And here I'm going to jump to this square where does the journal have an online submission system or not? If no online submission system, consider the journal suspicious for being predatory journal. Okay? So if you have a journal with no online submission system, consider it suspicious for predatory journal. Again, if the journal doesn't has any peer review process clearly stated in the instruction to authors, be very careful that this could be predatory journal as well. So two things important here. Go for the instruction to authors and check whether this journal has an online submission system, not an email, because some of the journals, they have an email. They tell you send your article via email. Then you have to be very careful that this could be predatory journal. But if they have an online submission system, so you can send your article to be considered for publication. The other thing which is important, peer review process. Also go for the instruction to authors. If the peer review process clearly stated, it's okay, you can go and submit your article to the journal. If not, consider it a predatory journal and don't consider it for your publication. Okay. Let's go to the preprint publication. What is this preprint publication? Preprint are research papers shared before peer review. An increasing popular option for authors. You have a paper and you share it before peer review. Without peer review, there are certain journals which I'll show you later. They are considered. You can send your article to these journals before peer review, without any peer review. So what is the benefit of it? The benefit is credit, because preprint are assigned digital object identifier, DOI, means it is recorded scholarly, can't be removed. If you have the DOI for your article, means you cannot remove it from any scholarly web page science pages. You cannot remove it. Nobody can remove it. The other thing, the visibility and citations. It's visible because you have the DOI. Okay, your article is visible. Means somebody is going to read it and going to give you feedback. With this feedback, you take, okay, and correct your article and send it to official journal. All right? So this is the idea of the preprint. These are the journals which accept the preprint, the bioarchives and the mid-archives, these two journals. But after that, many other journals now they are accepting, I'll show you later. Including the BMJ. BMJ accept preprint publication preprint publications. The Journal of Neurosurgical Science also accepts preprint publications. Science in 2022 issued a statement that the Science family of journals accept submission of research paper which preprint is the submission. JAMA network also accept a preprint publication. And here the Nature, in February 2021, agreed to publish preprint articles. What about anesthesia journals? In EIC in Vienna, June 2019, this is a board members of all editors of journals, including all journals, anesthesia journals in the world. They issued a statement that they don't accept preprint publication. Again, this was further strengthened on 6th of January 2023 on a Zoom meeting among all editors of anesthesia journals. Don't respect and publish preprint publications. On 17th of October 2023, another Zoom meeting discussing the open access journals, preprints, and AI. Also, the message is the same. So far, the anesthesia journals, they don't accept preprint publications. And that opted us to issue the statement in the structure of authors for SGA that we don't accept the preprint published articles. So far, this is the message. Whether it's going to be changed in the future or not, let us wait and see. This is the last meeting which we conducted also via Zoom on editors of journals on 21st of October 2024. What we have discussed in this, and they issued a statement on that any misconduct article is going to be shared among all editors-in-chiefs of anesthesia journals. Imagine if an author has an misconduct in any of the article, in any of publications, let us say in anesthesiology journals, the anesthesiology editor-in-chief is going to send it to make it visible, the whole investigations, to all other editors-in-chiefs of anesthesia journals. And this has opted the COP to issue a statement on sharing of information among editors-in-chief regarding possible misconduct. So your work will be visible to all of the anesthesia journals. So be very careful. Whenever you have an issue like that, you have to deal with it very meticulously. Let us move to the second part of my presentation on the chain of publication integrity. This is a kind of guidelines on the publication ethics. What is this scientific misconduct? Any situation with manipulation of the scientific records so they will not reflect the truth. This is by definition. And here, look for the titles of these publications: Journal of Postgraduate Institute of Medicine addressing the epidemic of scientific misconduct. And here on the right side, the fraud and the retraction epidemic. Imagine, it's considered now an epidemic, scientific misconduct. And the penalty is retraction epidemic, retraction of the articles. And here is interesting. This is published in 2009. How many scientists fabricate and falsify research? This is systematic review and meta-analysis. Look for the results. 2% of the scientists admit in this survey to have falsified research. 14%, they know somebody else falsified data. 34% admit other questionable research practices. One has to be very, very careful. This gentleman, he is a professor of physiology from Australia. He wrote a book, and this was the title of it: To Guard Against Fraud, Medical Research Should Be a Profession. And that's what I wrote in the first slide, that the medical research is not a hobby. It is a profession. And there is a chain of publication integrity. Just before sending your article to any of journals, just have this slide in front of you and check, just like checklist, whether there was an approval and consent taken. IRB, Institute Review Board, is there or not? Clinical trial.gov registration, any kind of human research, research on human subjects, has to be registered on this clinicaltrial.gov. This is the USA forum, or South African, Japanese, India. I'm not sure if Egypt has got its own clinical trial, website or not. But, if not, just go for the other countries, in Japan, in India, South Africa, or you go for the clinicaltrial.gov, which is United States. Check the informed consent. Has to be clearly written in the methodology that you have taken the informed consent. Check for plagiarism. We'll go for plagiarism now, and we'll check who is correct attribution or not. Data falsification, fabrication should be avoided. Any manipulated existing data should be avoided. Making up data absolutely should be avoided as well. Fraud publication, I gave one example, which is duplicate submission, that you send your article to two journals same time. So how imagine if you have received an acceptance from both journals, what are you going to do? So don't send your article to two journals at the same time. Authorship, all authors included should be written clearly with clear tasks for each. Conflict of interest, financial, scientific, has to be declared in your article. We'll see how it goes one by one now. Approval and consent, IRB, clinicaltrial.gov, and informed consent. As I said, it should be clearly stated. This is a good example in the methods. This to write for these three items. This study, for example, was single center study, prospective trial, so and so, and here you can say that you can see that these are the subjects, and here you can see that it is IRB registered here. This is the number, ethics approval of the hospital, and here is the clinicaltrial.gov identifier clearly written. This is a good example. Moving to plagiarism, what is this plagiarism? It's the practice of taking someone else's work or ideas and passing them off as if it is your own, or the use of previously published material without attribution. This is a kind of plagiarism which is not accepted in the publication arena. These are the different types of plagiarism: outright copying, paraphrasing, or patchwork. All of that has to be avoided. In all journals, we have a simple icon, we call it the iSyndicate page, wherever you click on this icon in any journal, we'll check the plagiarism. Imagine this article has similarity index of 72%. How we are going to accept this? How we do that? We cannot accept this for sure. So this is a very high, similarity index, means that the author didn't do anything. He copied the text and pasted on his paper. And this is what we call the plagiarism or the similarity index. This is a very high percentage, and this could not be accepted. And this one, if it happened, will go for disk rejection. What does it mean, disk rejection? The editor will go and just check the iSyndicate icon, and if it comes like that, 72%, he will send it back as a rejection straight away. And then the author is going to ask himself, how come? I just sent it today at 7 o'clock. 7:15, I received the rejection. How come that the editor didn't read it, or how he read it in 20 minutes, and this is decision taken. This is what we call it the disk rejection decision, because of the plagiarism of the similarity index. Be very careful in that regard. And what is going to be the consequences of plagiarism? Retraction. Your article is going to be either disk rejected, or if it is discovered later on, it's going to be retracted. Later on means after its publication. You tell me how it's going to be published without okay, passed unnoticed, somehow it happened. Many articles in our journals happen like that. They published, and then on reviewing it, because we make an audit for our publications on yearly basis. We take an audit, we take just random sample, and we check them again as if they are fresh submissions, and we decide from zero. And if we find that this is plagiarized and passed unnoticed from the editorial board, we retract it with a notice to the author. This is the caveat. This is a notion to the writer. This was in SGA published in October issue 2018. One of the Australian editor-in-chief anesthesia intensive care, he published in our journal. This is notice or caution to the writer. Let's move to the data falsification or manipulating existing data and fabrication, which means make up data. This is also should be not done at all. Any data fabrication. I look for this Massachusetts pain specialist who was spent 6 months in prison. Why? Because of data fabrication. Imagine that this can go far beyond, for 6 months prison. Okay, and this is his publication, 21 publication in reputable journals, anesthesia, analgesia, all of them, 21 articles were retracted. Another kind of retraction notice also, and here why it was retracted, all of these articles, because overwhelming evidence of fabrication. Another thing is leading anesthesiologists retract paper after reader noticed that the statistical approach was suboptimal. This is a very good example. We need a reader with critical eye. Don't read anything and take it for granted. Absolutely don't believe in that. Just read it carefully, have a critical eye. This kind of reader who criticized the statistical analysis and consider was suboptimal, it was really well taken by the editors of the journal. Here, another thing, hydroxychloroquine, editorial, during the COVID era, many articles on hydroxychloroquine published, and most of them nowadays are going to be retracted one by one because of the same, Fraud submission, I just took one example which is the duplicate submissions. Look for this example. This article was published here as letter to editor and published there in this another journal as a case report. Look for the X-rays here, the same, everything, even the title, bilateral whole lung lavage in the treatment of pulmonary alveolar proteinosis. And here the other same case published, bilateral, another journal, bilateral whole lung lavage in the treatment of pulmonary alveolar proteinosis. And look for the X-rays, the same. Everything is the same. So subsequently, these two articles, letter to editor, case report, were retracted. One from anesthesia analgesia, and the other one from journal anesthesiology clinical pharmacology. This is in our journal in SGA, and this is in anesthesia analgesia. Anesthesia analgesia published this article in 2006, and look for this data, which in the box, red and green. And again, look for the data, which is published 2011, same article, was sent to us, and we published, unfortunately, because the iSyndicate failed to recognize the plagiarism. Why? Look for that. What the author did, 03, this figure, and here it's only 3, and so on. You know, adding 0 has failed the iSyndicate to recognize it. And both published. Subsequently, you know what happened? The anesthesia analgesia, as I told you, all the editors, they chat with each other. You know, they send us a notice that this article you published 2011 was previously published in anesthesia analgesia in 2006, and both articles are the same. So both editors agreed to withdraw and retract both articles from anesthesia analgesia and SCGA with notion to the editor, you know, caveat lector in both journal, like an editorial in both journal has been published on that regard. Another thing, this is the SCGA. We have group of anesthesiology researchers in India has had 10 papers retracted from SCGA. You know, we don't mind, you know, to retract even dozen of papers, you know, if proved to be with misconduct. And that's what happened in one of the issues. 10 papers in mass, you know, has been retracted altogether from SCGA in one issue. Authorship, as I said, all authors included should be clearly identified with their tasks. And this is a good example. Author contribution, let us say this one, author one, concept, data curation, investigation, methodology, project administration, and so on. Author number two, data curation. This is a task for each of the author. Each author has got a task, and it has to be written clearly, you know. Conflict of interest, I said, you know, this is scientific and financial, should be declared, that the authors declare no potential conflict of interest with respect to research, authorship, or publication of this article, and even funding has to be also the same declared. These are two extreme examples of research misconduct. First, peer review fraud, and this one in August 2015, the publisher Springer retracted 64 articles from 10 different subscription journals after editorial checks spotted fake email addresses and subsequent internal investigation. How it happened this? You know, when you submit your article to a journal, they will ask you, the system has got a generated message to ask you, just nominate reviewer for your article. Then the authors in this scenario went in and wrote their alternative email address, you know? So the article subsequently went to them again as reviewers. This has been discovered. And subsequently, 64 articles from 10 different subscription journals were retracted. This is another, another extreme research misconduct. A former peer reviewer of the Annals of Internal Medicine, imagine now we are talking about very high-ranked journals, has admitted taking a paper rejected from that journal, changing the author names and publishing it as his own in another journal. Imagine this can happen. Reviewers, you know, we send the article to many reviewers in the world, you know, but this reviewer stated that he rejected this article from this journal, and he took the article and put his name and published it as if it is his own. So I think this is a very extreme example of research misconduct and shouldn't occur at all. But this has happened. This is the Science and Engineering Ethics journals, you know, in their survey analysis from 2011 to 15th of March 2017. They have listed this table. This is the country code, number of documents, you know, a number of retracted articles, and misconduct ratio, and the based on misconduct ratio, rank based on the number of documents. On top was China, as usual. Number of documents were more than 2 million from 2011, 2017 published. Number of retracted 4,300 and so on. Misconduct ratio 1.6 and so on. And it gives you this record by country. These are the 5 countries with no retractions and no misconduct on the same survey. The COP, Committee of Publication Ethics, has issued statements for journal editors should be considered retraction of publication if there is an evidence that the findings are unreliable, the finding previously being published without cross-referencing or permission or justification, it constitutes plagiarism, it reports an ethical research. So if this happens, so the editors has a clear right to withdraw the articles or retract it. The institutions and journal has got important duties. Institutions are responsible of the researchers, okay? And journals are responsible for conduct of their editors and ensuring reliability of everything and integrity. Let us move to the third part of the presentation on the AI scientific writing, which is what is the ethical concern. We published a review article, SGA, on artificial intelligence in medicine and research. And put it like that, the good, the bad, and the ugly. The good was the use of AI in clinical medicine, like monitoring and all what being listed in the first part of tonight. And the bad thing in the errors and data losses, which can happen. The ugly thing in research, in using AI medical research, is the fabrication, plagiarism, and figure fabrication. And this is something new, Nowadays, with AI, you can go for and do any figures, which is, they call it the fabrication of figures, which is not accepted at all. So this is the how generative AI could disrupt science of publication. I'll just show you this one of the surveys, and this was the question mentioned to the authors. What do you think are currently the biggest benefits of generative AI, like ChatGPT for research? It's very clear here, They mentioned the following. It helps researchers without English as a first language, helps writing manuscript faster, helps creative work by brainstorming and new ideas. Hypothesis of your article, you can have it through the ChatGPT. Generates a new research hypothesis, helps peer review, and this will come to that later, peer review manuscript faster. This is just an alert, that is how important is AI in our publications. These are the top 7 intelligence AI tools in scientific research. I'll just consider or take these 2, ChatGPT and AI Reviewer, and see how we can analyze them. I asked the ChatGPT to make a summary on or write a text on anesthesia for myasthenia gravis, for example. The answer came, this is version 4, the latest version. I'm sorry, but as an AI language model, I don't have direct access to specific articles or journals. Okay, that was one example. When I asked ChatGPT on the right text on remimazolam, perfect, When I read it, as if it's pure pharmacology, which I liked it most. That remimazolam, short-acting benzodiazepine, and so on, it's a good text. Then I moved on to ask about some clinical, anesthesia topics. Write on paraplegia, on anesthesia-induced soft tissues injury, paragraph on anesthesia-induced soft tissue injuries. It came like, very superficial text, And again, I went so deep, in one of the topics on insertion depths of W modules, which I like most. Also, it came as very superficial, with no more information. So, I came out with this that, getting assistance from ChatGPT on pharmacology, of drugs, I think it's not a bad idea. Then let's move to the AI reviewer. AI reviewer, this one, I like it most also. This is a website where you upload your file in PDF. On this box, it is for free. Till now, it is for free. But I'm sure that after some time, it will be not. So you upload it here. What's happening? It's a review. They are going to review an article, giving you the strengths of your article, the weaknesses and novelty, okay, originality of your article, and even they check the similarity index, for your article. And moreover, they will help you in selecting the journal for your article. Not only that, but they will mention what is the impact factor of the journal. If they select annals cardiac anesthesia, and this is going to give you the impact factor of the journal. It's a very good module, and you can use it just to check it before sending your article. Also, some of the publishers like Lippincott and Medno, they have also run pre-submission checks. It is for free for Lippincott, just to check and submit your article, and they will check it for you for free, whether, what are the strengths, the weaknesses, the novelty, which journal they recommend. Also, this one, which is the Medno publication, they have the same, they call it the pre-flight, and also they can run a pre-submission checks for free. The ethical concerns for this using AI for scientific writing, I put it in a rule of 6. Using AI to reduce the percentage of plagiarism is not acceptable. Lack of an expert human will lead to data biases and losses. As I said, ChatGPT cannot be an author. Be very careful. ChatGPT cannot be an author. You cannot write ChatGPT on the author list, ChatGPT can be used for checking grammar and syntax error. Major concerns in AI use for scientific writing is the copywriting, attribution, plagiarism, and authorship. AI reviewer, I consider it useful tool to check your article pre-flight. This is the SGA in the instruction of authors. We have updated our instruction to author according to the ChatGPT. So we said here last year in this statement, we use the ChatGPT 4 detector to detect check plagiarism on our website. Just to let the author know that we are using this for plagiarism and to detect whether the author has used the ChatGPT in his article or not. Okay, let's move to the final part, which is a summary. I'll go to this chain of publication integrity back, and I'll modify it a little bit. First here, avoid predatory publications, as we agreed upon earlier, and avoid preprint for the time being. I don't know what's really going to be in the future, but for time being in anesthesia journal, they don't accept the preprint publications. Then go further, approval consent IRB, clinicaltrial.gov informed consent should be clearly stated in the methodology. Check plagiarism before you send your article. Get feedback from AI reviewer. ChatGPT detector to check plagiarism. Data falsification and fabrication to be avoided. Fraud submission like duplicate submission should be avoided. Authors included all should be mentioned, clear tasks. And mind you, and take a note here that AI is not an author. Conflict of interest, financial, scientific, and I added here use of AI to be declared. In the letter to the editor, when you submit your article, letter to editor, admit and say and write clearly whether you have used AI or not. It has to be declared in the letter to the editor. Thank you very much for listening.
شكرا جزيلا دكتور عبد العظيم، محاضرة الحقيقة رائعة، ويعني خسارة طبعا إن أساتذة محترمين من الاسم ما حضروش، رغم إن أنا عملت الإعلان على السايت بتاع الاسم. لأن طبعا يعني التنبيهات اللي حضرتك قلتها دي في قبل النشر مهمة جدا للي عايز يعني يكون جاد وعايز ينشر. وللأسف حاجة من الحاجات اللي أنت قلتها حصلت فيا شخصيا، أو مش فيا، كان زوجتي أستاذة معانا في الاسم، وبتبعت بحث كبير كنا عاملينه على التوسيع بالنتائج، حوالي 100 عيان، حاجة كبيرة. عملوا توسيع وتركيب دعامة، واختارت عشان السعودية فعلا بفضل ناس زيك إديتور خلوا مجلاتهم أقوياء. بعتتها للسعودي هارت جورنال. فوجئت إن هم بيقولوا أنت البحث ده سارقينه، وده البحث ده اتنشر وبعتوا لنا، وانتوا مش هنقفل عليكم، مش فوجئنا ان في واحدة للأسف من معهد القلب خدت البحث ونشرته بحذافيره وبفرس أسر قبل ما احنا ننشره.
نعم.
للأسف عن طريق الكانديديت الفيلو اللي هو كان هي مشرفة عليه، سرب لها البيبر قبل ما الدكتورة زوجتي تنشرها. وطبعا يعني هي كانت في معهد القلب، فرحت اشتكيتها في المستشفيات التعليمية، وجبنا الدليل ووضحنا من النت. ورغم ان هي طبعا الحرامية شالت من الاوبن اكسس بيبر، شالتها،
مم.
لكن كان اوريدي احنا طبعا انا رئيس هيئه النشاط التعليميه وقتها، انا مش فاكر اسمه، بس انا فاكر كويس ان هو ابن صلاح نصر المشهور بتاع ثوره
مم.
23 يوليو.
مم.
وكونوا لجنه، واللجنه اثبتت ادانتها، ولم
مم.
يحدث اي شيء بسبب وسايط من اساتذه مهمين في معهد القلب، ومعلش وحرام وما فيش. واترقت، وحاليا هي عضو مهم في جمعيه القلب ورئيسه احد الشعب. ويعني ووزارة الصحة بتبعتها للدول الأفريقية أو حاجة يعني تخلي
مم.
الواحد يكتئب. وأنا بشوفها في المؤتمرات برفض إن أسلم عليه أو حتى
نعم.
أكلمه، لكن
نعم.
للأسف هو ده حال بلدنا. بس اللي
نعم.
أنت بتقول عليه بيحصل، ومجلات محترمة بتكتشف، بس بتجيب العيب على على الأصل، والحرامي هو اللي بينفد بجلده.
نعم.
طبعا ما قدرناش ننشر البحث، وراح علينا وعليها هي صاحبته في
مم.
مجلة طبعا مشكوك في أمرها، من اللي هم بتوع عليهم مجلات اللي مسميهم بريداتوري دي.
نعم.
وكان الله يحب المحسنين.
مم. نعم. يعني هي مسج طبعا لل our junior colleagues حقيقة. and they have to be very careful, and this message really circulating all over the world nowadays, that any misconduct has to be treated carefully, and moreover, the last meeting with the editors all, they mentioned that they are going to share with any kind of misconduct paper came to one anesthesia journal is going to be shared with all editors of the other anesthesia journals. So I think the message is clear, especially for our junior colleagues.
شكرا جزيلا. أعتقد حضرتك
عفو.
كانت يعني very واضحة
عفو.
وبوينت ومكثفة، بحيث إن ما فيش مجال إن حد يسأل. لأن حضرتك وإحنا بنستأذنك، إن إحنا عاملين موقع مسمينه حسن خالد جورنال كلاب،
نعم.
منزلين عليه كل المحاضرات اتعملت على ال5 سنين اللي فاتوا. قبل الكورونا
نعم.
كنا بنقولها كده في قاعة محاضرة باللي حاضرين.
نعم.
دلوقتي على الزوم طبعا بقت أحسن وبتنتشر أكتر. بس
أكيد.
طبعا واضح الناس مش انترست المحاضرات القيمة اللي بتقول how to publish. بيحبوا الحاجات البراكتيكال. هم
آه.
اليانج عايزين تعلمهم، تقول لهم الدواء ده بيستعمل فين وامتى وشوية يعني. علينا
معلش
متشكرين
هنصبر،
جدا،
معلش.
تعبناك
لا،
تعبناك.
العفو، العفو.
وشكرا
العفو،
جزيلا لكل
شكرا جزيلا.
الحاضرين، ورأسهم الدكتور عمر أحمد.
شكرا
شكرا
لك.
دكتور عبد
ألف
العظيم.
شكر.
الله
ألف شكر.
يخليك. الله
شكرا
يخليك.
أشكرك.
في أمان الله.
مع السلامة. مع
مع
السلامة.
السلامة.